Hey SUBFURIES, and welcome back to that guy who likes his cat far too much.
Mishka! 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 No, this is not what I planned. I wanted the other pet.
I'm in a bit of a hairy situation because I haven't shaved in a while.
Because facial hair.
And yes, before any of you pointed out, beard growing is not my thing. But you still have to laugh at my pun. Puns are a vital part of the SUBFURY community. I mean, why else would I try and start a YouTube channel? I needed people to validate my sense of humor. In fact, task number 1, tell me your best pun down in the comments below. Now SUBFURIES, I have a short story to tell you. Once there was a man. He liked dragons. He watched Race to the Edge season 5 and thought it was fantastic. The end. Possibly not the best story I've ever written, but then again, I never could write short stories. Even when I had to write short stories at high school, I wrote them as like parts of a larger novel because I couldn't fathom the idea of a beginning, middle, and end within like half a dozen pages. Like how? But don't you need like a whole host of characters and then side characters and then subplots and then twists and complex developed villains so that you spend 6 books with these people so that when you finally take them and murder them, it feels so much more satisfying and sad. Sad and satisfying. Scenes with backstories and climaxes where characters get tied up. And I'm getting sidetracked. On the note of writing though, I think I might make some videos on writing stories on my second channel, which you should totally go subscribe to. There's a link down below, I think, or on my main channel page. You can go check that out there. Writing is fun. It lets me escape the hell that is my life. But I have watched Race to the Edge season 5 and it's time to do a spoiler-free review of it. But if you do want to talk about something that happens in the latest series, make sure that you comment spoilers at the top and skip a few lines so that those who haven't seen the season yet don't get the twists that are in the series spoiled for them. Being respectful is part of being a SUBFURY. Also, if you haven't yet, remember to vote for your favorite design for the official SUBFURY t-shirt down at the link below. I've had like 1,200 responses so far. Thank you so much. Results out soon. On to the review. The first thing I have to say is wow. The second, oh my gosh. The third is Dagger. I just like Dagger. He reminds me of myself, except the love for the sister part. No, in this household we are mortal enemies. So season 5 in my mind is probably the best season of Race to the Edge that they have made so far. But one of the things that made this series particularly cool is that we are really beginning to see how Race to the Edge ties in with the second How to Train Your Dragon movie. There are hints in almost every single episode about certain dragons or events or characters that appear in the second movie that really made me kind of question. I actually realized a few things about Drago Bloodfist in particular. There was actually a particular episode towards the end of the season that I suddenly had this moment of, oh my gosh, that is why he did this thing in the second movie. I was getting answers to questions that I didn't even really know I had. And tying these plot points together in Race to the Edge works really well because in the second movie, Drago really just comes out of nowhere. Feels like this dude with a giant army enslaving dragons just sort of appears. But Race to the Edge is bridging that gap. It's giving us a backstory, some context to the second movie that I feel was actually kind of needed. It was this season that really began to set up the start of the second movie, and hopefully next season we will get even more answers. The second thing that you are going to love, if you haven't seen it yet, is the villains. We've seen quite a number of villains throughout the Riders and Defenders and Race to the Edge series, and they've progressively gotten more dangerous and maniacal and strategic. Alvin the Treacherous was kinda dumb and pretty weak and easily defeated. Dagger was deranged. Get it? Cause Dagger. But he was a damn good fighter and quite a challenge. Riker had weapons and tools to use against dragons that we had never seen before. And then Vigo was calculating, strategic, and even managed to best and beat the Riders quite a number of times. And now we turn to a new villain, who, by the way, I am going to tell you who they are because they appear in the first episode. We see them in the trailer, so you really already know. But if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, then turn off your ears for a few seconds. Ready? It's Krogan, the guy that we did predict would be the villain for this season, and he's fantastic. Okay, you can listen now again. This villain isn't just strategic and calculating like Vigo. He's cruel and unforgiving and evil in a way that we haven't met before. And this provides a real challenge for Hiccup, a challenge that I want to talk about. So across all of How to Train Your Dragon, there has been this underlying theme about basically animal cruelty. Well, Lord Mishka actually murders anyone he sees hurting other animals. I once stood on Obi's paw, but you're okay now, aren't you? Yes, you are. And he had me shot. He then replaced previous me with this clone. And that theme has been expanded on as the series has continued, with Hiccup and his gang believing in bonding and respecting and being kind to dragons, with villains first trying to kill them and then control them, or then sell them off and enslave them, like with Vigo. But about halfway through this season, we finally got to see something that we hadn't seen in Race to the Edge before. Hiccup internally struggling with the fact that he might have to hurt dragons. He and Stoic disagree, and you saw the dragonflies in the trailer, so you know they're part of the series. The Riders of the Edge are being attacked by other dragonflies, but in order to take them out, they're going to have to hurt the Singetails. And Hiccup and Stoic butt heads over this. Stoic says, of course, you can't make that sort of distinction in war, which is easy for a guy who has killed plenty of dragons in his past. But Hiccup can't accept that, and I thought that was really cool to see. And this was a similar theme explored with Drago's Bewilderbeast in the second movie. Is it right to hurt dragons that are hurting others because they're under the control of evil men? Finally, I really liked that Hiccup's tinkering, his inventing, played a bigger role in this past season. I won't tell you what he makes because it's pretty damn cool, and when they reveal it, it's like but it plays well into this season and really sets up the final season to give a good, strong ending to the series. As I've said before, I've always wanted Hiccup's inventing to play a bigger role, and it finally has. And of course, we see his sword, Inferno, is way cooler this season, and we get to see him learning how to use it because, as you all know from the first movie, he's not particularly good with a blade. Now, while all of this was fantastic, there were a couple of things that I didn't like so much. In particular, there was a storyline involving Roughnut and another character, who, if you've seen the series, I'm sure you already know about. To me, that whole storyline felt a bit awkward and weird and forced. I didn't understand why that other character was kind of relating to Roughnut in that way, and the way that they resolved it in the end seemed weird and kind of jarring, like it didn't quite fit in my personal opinion. But it did give us a nice insight into how Roughnut and Toughnut kind of view and love each other as siblings. But yeah, the involvement of that third character just didn't work for me. And finally, there was one more thing, but this feels more like a missed opportunity than a mistake that the series made. I've talked about it before, I really want the series to complicate its secondary villains. The goons that fight and die and get tossed overboard and all look the same. This season we have the dragonflies. There's a small group of them that actually look kind of unique, with different helmets and different tattoos on their arms and their face. I thought that they would probably be developing those characters as individuals a bit more, giving them some more dialogue so we can explore who they are and why they are with the villains of this season. It would give the show an opportunity to develop more than just the main villains, and that means that when they're eventually defeated, as I'm sure they will be, it'll pack more of a punch. Or perhaps if one of the dragonflies comes around to seeing it the way that Hiccup and Astrid and Toothless and the Riders do, it'll be more interesting to see this guy switch sides. And I actually thought that they were going to do this in one episode about halfway through the season with a particular character, but it went nowhere, which is disappointing. Overall, I loved the season, though funnily enough, I actually only finished the series a couple of days ago. I haven't had time with all of my assignments and essays and trying to organize everything with the shirts and stuff like that. I know, I'm terrible. I should really be on top of my game a bit more. But I really want to hear your thoughts on the series down below. Though if you haven't seen it yet, please be cautious going down in the comments below. There may well be things being spoiled for you. In the meantime, I'd love for you to join other SUBFuries. Follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, email me or send me stuff at the links in the description below. I know it's been ages since I've talked about Season 5. You guys have been asking me a lot to talk about what has happened, particularly at the end of the season with a scene with a particular character. You'll have to wait for that one. But without further ado, I must remind you, stay nerdy, SUBFURIES, and I'll see you in the future.